yeah, I mean, I could start at the very beginning. Actually, it's a little relevant to Farcaster. I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts, which is just a couple towns over from where Dan Romero is from. So he actually
Hmm.
went to high school with my cousin Dave, and that's how and then Dan and I went to college together at Duke in North Carolina, and so that's where I met him. I met him during the Duke Startup Challenge my last year there.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the origin of how I heard about Farcaster in the beginning. Um, but yeah, so I've been in software for about 20 years. After college, I moved to San Francisco, and I did startups there for about 6 years, and then I got into we got acquired by Microsoft, so I moved up to Seattle for 3 years. Um, I got married, and my wife's job brought us to Hawaii and I've been there for 8 years now. And so I've been in software. And when I moved to Hawaii, I got into cancer research because there was no software in Hawaii, um, which I was surprised by because I thought, oh, it's in between China and California. There'll be a lot of software there. There wasn't any, but the cancer center needed someone who knew machine learning and software engineering. So I joined University of Hawaii Cancer Center, and I got into biology, which has been amazing. Um, and so since that, so I have two daughters, and my oldest daughter, Kaya, she used to say to me, no phone data. Like I was like everyone else. I would always just take out my phone all the time. I was addicted to the thing. But she would always say, no phone data, no phone data. And then one day in 2022, we were at a water park and my phone broke. And I just took like a month or two to get around to fixing it. And then I was like, you know what? Life has been so much better without it. I've just been more in the moment with my daughters. And I just felt like, okay, let me just see how long keep this going. And um, yeah, and just now it's been years, and I'll just never go back. I just love it. Feels like I'm in the 90s again. Like every day is a little bit of an adventure. You'll car will break down or all these things will go wrong, and you just got to figure it out. And you got to rely on other humans. Um, and it's just great. So that's long winded opening, I guess.
No, it's awesome. I appreciate the story and the lead in on the no phone situation, which was the impetus for us doing this. I posted on, for those who don't have context, I posted on Warpcast that I was doing 3 days without eating any food or going on my phone, so like a food and phone fast. And then I guess I posted when I was finished with it. At some point, I might have posted it a couple of times, and at some point, you responded that you hadn't used your phone in like 3 years, and I was just like, "Whoa, that's pretty wild." You don't hear like that's very unusual these days, but the way that it sort of came to be makes a ton of sense. It wasn't really something that it wasn't premeditated. However, you had sort of these seeds of the idea that it would be good to go without your phone from your daughter, but it took the phone actually breaking and just a little bit of, uh, for lack of a better word, laziness and fixing it quickly to realize that like, hey, so far so good without this thing. Maybe I should just keep going. Um, so it's an interesting sort of way that all got started. And I'll say like, I went the 3 days without it. I've done about a week without it before. However, in that week, there might have been like two or three instances of I needed it for like a two-factor authentication or something like that. So it wasn't like zero, but I think I used it for like a total of a half hour over a course of a week. This time around, it was 3 days. Literally didn't touch the thing. Um, And I feel like it's the culmination of having set myself up for the ability to go phoneless over a matter of like years. Obviously, it all could have been done quickly, but it was sort of figuring out one way to do something without my phone at some point, and then several months later, like figuring out another thing until I finally got to the point where like the things that required my phone were really just edge cases. And I had enough sort of on between my laptop and my watch, Apple Watch, which I think is a really nice. The reason I got the original, I got the original Apple Watch. I think I pre-ordered it, and now I have another one. But originally I got it. I was really excited about it, and the primary reason I was excited about it was actually to use my phone less. And this was in like, I don't know, 2016 or something like that. Um,
Mhm.
so like this has obviously been something I've been thinking about for a long time and being conscious about using my phone. I've made it like grayscale over, periods of time, and which is really helpful as well. And, tried using two phones where one is pretty much nothing that is like sort of addicting or dopamine triggering. And then the other one has all the dopamine stuff. And so I can like sort of carry the boring one around all the time and then have the dopamine one on sort of like limited use or whatever. So like I've tried all these different things, but at the end of the day, I think like just going without it is kind of the best. I just, like you said, like the last few days, like it's just kind of great. There's all these impacts of it that like they're sort of subtle, but they feel like really important. One of them being that, to your point, like with your daughter, you're not just sort of, you don't just have this sort of like crutch of entertainment in your pocket that you can always be checking and always be scrolling or whatever. And it's just like, even if it's a quick check, it's this like sort of compulsion. And then the other thing is like without that, I feel like generally speaking, I'm more intentional about what I'm doing when I don't have the phone, because you can just sort of default to doing what I call like doing nothing on your phone, which is basically just like sort of fooling around on your phone on Twitter or whatever. And it's just like if you have that default, if you have that sort of like base case to default to, there's not really like any reason to ever like think about what to do as much. Like you can intentionally try to think about what to do, but you'll just default whenever there's nothing going on. Like you just default to that basically, in lieu of anything else. But when you don't have that and like you finish something up, it's like, okay, what's next? And like there's nothing to do in the meantime. Like you have to just think about or just go do something different. Like there's no crutch basically. So I found it to be pretty interesting, but I'm curious, like having done it for 3 years, like I talk about edge cases, like in the last 3 days, besides I would say two-factor authentication, no edge cases. And for those, like, they weren't things that I absolutely needed at the time. So I just didn't do them. Um, and sometimes you can do them by text. And if I do it by text, it'll come in on my computer or on my watch. But are there edge cases that you've like had to solve for over the years? Because the problem is, I wish it wasn't this way, but the world is built for people on the assumption that people have iPhones or smartphones at least. And so some things just become like really unfortunately practically difficult. And I'm curious if you've sort of encountered those over the years and found any solutions for some of the more, popular edge cases, if you will.
Yeah. So I do have a Google Voice number. So I do have a phone number. Then I've had that for 15 years or something. So people can send me text messages and phone calls. Unfortunately, a lot of services don't for the two-factor auth. A lot of services won't allow a VoIP number. So like I don't
Right.
have Telegram. I don't have WhatsApp. Um, and that's kind of annoying. Like, so those things, but it's not worth it to me. It's funny. I'm in San Francisco at the moment. I just did a program at Founders Inc. called Cold Start. They did like a month-long accelerator program, and everything was coordinated via WhatsApp. And so I didn't have it. So I just missed out on half of the events, but it was fine. It was totally
Uh-huh.
worth it. Like, I think it's just, um, you just gotta be like, not mind the trade-off that you're going to miss out on certain things. But you're going to have, but it's totally worth. Yeah. I miss out. I miss out on a lot of group chats. Um, but like I have great in real life, conversations with random strangers or friends and family, and, uh, so much better than what I missed out on. So yeah, Google Voice. that's real important. I do have an iPad Pro, so I do that. So like I have a lot of technology. I'm not against technology. I got a MacBook and an iPad. Um, and I would do wear a Fitbit. It's not connected to the internet, but I do love health trackers. Um, but the iPad Pro helps because yeah, there are some things that they don't make a website, so I need to download an app, and it looks funny, when you're running an iPhone app on an iPad, but it works. But what other edge cases?
What about like, do you
It's
use Uber?
I don't really use Uber, but I can use it from my iPad if I have Wi-Fi.
Right.
So I've had opportunities sometimes like where I will flag someone down on the street and be like, "Do you have a Wi-Fi hotspot?" And they'll like turn a Wi-Fi hotspot on their phone, and then I'll connect to that to use an Uber in an
Mm.
emergency or something like that. But usually, it's the other thing that's nice about my iPad Pro is it's massive, so I'm not carrying this thing around. Um, so it's so basically, if I'm out of the house, I don't have any technology on me, and I have pen and paper with me at all times for writing this down. Um, but yeah, there have been periods where like I'm locked out of my bank account for like 6 months, and I just have to make do because they, like USAA added some weird two-factor auth recently, and just Coinbase. I mean, yeah, there's just these times where it's just like, oh, I'm just kind of screwed. And I don't know, you just realize it's not that important. I just value I just value the time and the real world so high that I don't mind, these annoying things. It's shocking that I'm the only person under 90 years old that I've met that doesn't have a phone. I thought, years in I would have I haven't met a single person who also
Yeah.
does not have a phone, which is just wild to me um, that is the case. But yeah, Christopher
It's,
Nolan doesn't have a phone.
I think part of the reason is that to your point, like, I mean, it is surprising still, regardless of anything, but it's just to your point around like your bank and WhatsApp and what I was saying earlier, that like the world is just built on the assumption that people have, and like increasingly so on the assumption that people have smartphones. And it's not increasingly so because, phones are new or anything like that, but it's, some systems can take 10, 15, 20 years until someone decides to update them. And then when they do decide to update them in modern day, they decide to update them in a way that requires, that's based on the assumption that everyone has a smartphone. For example, my building that I live in, while I've been here for about 2 years, and 6 months ago or so, we used to have these key fobs to like a
Hmm.
little, piece of plastic to let us in the
Hmm.
building. And it was great. And then they switched it like 6 months ago to an app on the phone, and it sucks. And like
Yeah.
I can't, even if I used to leave just occasionally without my phone or whatever, like I need to bring my phone now because otherwise I'm locked out. And of course, like I've recently over the last few days, especially like I've never had my phone on me, and so I've realized, to your point, like it's not that big of a deal. It's like 8 times out of 10, someone's there to open the door. And when they're not, maybe it's a couple minutes wait. Like it's not that big of a deal. But it used to be like there was zero problems with the fob. And
Hmm.
now, even if I have a phone or whatever, it's just actually worse. Like it takes like several seconds and sometimes multiple attempts to like get the thing to read my phone key versus
Hmm.
like the fob was just, instant and easy. And so it's like a downgrade. It's like an upgrade in technology from like a technical perspective, but actually a downgrade in the user experience, so to speak. And I think there's other things like that as well, but it's just an example of sort of the world being built on this assumption. I actually asked today because I'm sort of like putting my phone down for a few days allowed me to sort of see things a little bit fresh. And I tried to think about like what are some better like sort of systems that I can build for myself. And so I just stopped in the office and was like, hey, do you have any, like, do these things still allow for a key fob? Like I know you're supposed to do it on the phone, but can they do key fob, and does anyone have them, or can I get one? And they were like, yeah, like not really. They do work, but it's only for like really old people who don't have phones. And it's kind of like expensive and takes a while to get. So I don't know, like I sort of, I didn't push it too hard, but it sounds like I could get one if I wanted to. But it's like all these like little sort of minor inconveniences. And I think it's, it sounds like you, I'm not sure if you are really an outlier in how much you value this time, like without, basically in like real life experiences, like the things, basically all the benefits of not having a phone. I'm not sure if you're actually an outlier in how much you enjoy them. I think that a combination of like sort of being inclined for that stuff plus the sort of, uh, chance happening that you broke your phone and it gave you a test run of going without it. Like the combination of those couple of things maybe just doesn't happen for as many people, or most people, like if they broke their phone, they wouldn't give themselves those few days or a few weeks or whatever. They would go and get one like that day or the next day or whatever, and wouldn't even pay attention to whether they enjoyed the time in between. But what's interesting to hear about sort of your approach is like, it really seems like it's roughly as extreme as you could go, with the exception, well, with the major exception that you still like have a laptop and an iPad, which it sounds like you use quite a bit. So that's like a, big exception. But in terms of like the phone, like you don't even own one. Like you don't, like what I'm talking about, what I did last few days, not like I got rid of my phone. Like I just don't use it at all. Like I keep it in a drawer. And to me, it's actually, I'm wondering, and like sort of the golden solution or whatever that I'm looking for myself is something that gives me pretty much all of the benefits that you've described without a fair number of the trade-offs. Like I'm not expecting to be able to eliminate all of the trade-offs, but maybe 80% of them or something. Like 80% of the benefits you're getting with 20% of the trade-offs that you're giving up or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the way that I've been, you know, um, sort of like closing in on over like these years that I've described is like, I think it involves an Apple Watch,
Mhm.
which allows for notifications. Like I don't have notifications on to where they're like buzzing me like crazy, but like I
Mhm.
can check them. And like,
Mhm.
what's different about checking your notifications on your watch versus your phone? Well, they are similarly compulsive.
Mhm.
You're not going to get lost on your watch. Like once
Mhm.
you're going to check and you're done.
Mhm.
And it's almost like, if you had a regular watch, and you're just someone who happens to like to check the time a lot, like
Mhm.
it's like no worse than that, I would say.
Mhm.
And it'll kind of, I mean, for better or worse, it'll let if you get an important message or an important email, you should go back to your laptop and, respond to that. So it's almost like a pager or something, in terms of like the function. And so I like sort of having the watch and laptop combination as a replacement for the phone, but still having a phone because that's like an extra step, an extra like threshold or tier of problems, I think, that you introduce by not having a phone number, or not like a smartphone phone number or whatever, where I can use WhatsApp, and if a bank needs to text me or whatever, like I can do that, and things like that. So I feel like that will be sort of my flavor, but it's really helpful to hear your approach as well, and just talking about it, making it more top of mind is pretty motivating to like actually figure it out, because like I can sort of hear just by how you're talking about it, like there's no question in your mind that like not using a phone is the move. Um, and to hear that like sort of confidence from, again, you just like, neither of us have met anyone else like you in recent history that um, that doesn't use a phone at all. It's like super rare, and like the best, sort of types of things, I think, are things that are extremely rare and yet like better. And this is one of those things that just like phones are such a central part of people's lives. And if it's sort of a net negative thing, then it would be really valuable to like not do that in a way that's, you know, that works for, the individual personally.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. I do think it is a net negative, and but it's hard. Yeah, I think it would be hard. I did have two burners over this period. I got one burner. I was in Europe in late 2022 and early 2023.
Like
I
a
was
flip phone
in,
or something?
yeah, that one was an iPhone 4. So an iPhone
Okay.
from, I just bought it on eBay. So I just needed a burner. I was in, Ukraine and, for a long story, but, and that one, so that one, but that one I've lost over there. And that's another long story, but, and then I got a burner last year. Was it? Yeah, it was last year. I had that, I don't know, for a month or so, just because I was trying to get in, because I really needed to get into one of my crypto accounts. And then, um, but I called it a burner. And then my partner, she's like, oh, you can't say you don't have a phone anymore because you got that thing. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, and this thing adds so little value to my life. I just threw it in the trash. It's just an Android
Nice.
phone I got for $40. Um, so, so I've done the burner strategy, and I just think it's just simpler. It's kind of like, um, doing a diet where like, oh, I'm just going to do, one candy bar a week or whatever, like one sugar once
Right.
a week or something. It's so much easier to just say, no, I'm not going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
for some reason,
That's
doing it all the
the
way.
that's the big challenge, I guess, with the way that I'm trying to do it. It's like if I throw it in the drawer and say that I'm going to do the watch and the laptop, like, am I actually going to be able to leave it in the drawer? So far, the
Yeah.
answer has basically been no. But
Yeah.
I do like. It seems like it's like definition of insanity or whatever, like trying the same thing over and over again and it, expecting a different result. But I do feel like over the years, each incremental sort of attempt has been like I add like one little rule or like I figure out how I can like do Venmo and Uber, for example, from my laptop. And like it's a one-time setup cost. Like I forget what it is now because it was a while ago, but and I didn't need like an Uber in the last few days. But I believe I have something like on my laptop that like it wasn't. I think I had to set it up at like pretty intentionally, like using my phone the first time.
Mhm.
But then from now on, I think I could call it like you've probably. I'm not sure if it's the same as the iPad. The iPad might have the actual app, like the laptop doesn't, but there you can do it through the site or something. It's like it's meant for like elderly people, and so there's just like I guess that's sort of a pattern. There is like sort of a workaround for really old people, like a lot of the time. But like
Mhm.
obviously, like a brand new crypto app is not gonna, have that. But like sort of like an Uber or like an Airbnb sort of scale thing might have some like old people option basically. Um,
Yeah.
so um, yeah, I definitely take the analogy with like the candy bar. Like ultimately, you might just need to say like no candy
Yeah.
to make it work. Does your wife have a phone?
She does. Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
she just like totally normal with it, but called you out when you were started using the burner because you've been the no phone guy for years.
yeah. 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 So,
So that's
yeah.
helpful too. She can call an Uber.
Yeah, it kind of is. And that happens. So I do kind of lean on people a little bit too. Um, so, but it's great. I think when people are with me, they do take their phones out a lot less. And, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, if they break it out like over lunch, it's not like you're gonna like match them. Like you're just gonna be sitting there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I call them out on it.
Yeah,
And it's funny. I've gone through so many experiences that would have been like, well, if I had a phone, this would have been solvable in 5 minutes. And instead it's like a 4 hour, 7 mile walk in the
right.
rain. But then you go through enough of those, you're like, it's worth it. You get stories. So
Interesting. Yeah, I'm very intrigued. And I think also, you have to be in a certain situation with enough freedom as it pertains to like work and whatnot that
right,
it's even really feasible. But
right.
as of now, I am in that, situation, and I've tried to be in that situation for most of my career, where there's
Yeah.
like enough freedom that, no one's gonna get pissed if whatever happens. So um interesting. So if there's anything else on the phone front, the floor is yours. But I also just am curious, living in Hawaii, also, fairly unusual for people that, I've interacted with. Um, how do you like that having, been from like Northeast and then San Francisco? It's not like you're like born in Hawaii or something. So it must have been sort of new and different at some point. I'm sure you're sort of used to it now, but do you like that? Like the time difference with everyone? I don't know if you work on like, well, I guess you're working in person, so it's not an unusual time schedule, but maybe you see people who work remote for companies in the States or even in Asia. I'm just curious, sort of your perspective on living in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, I mean, it really is paradise. I didn't think I would have been here so long. I thought we'd be here for 6 months or a year, but my daughters were born here, so that's kind of where my heart is now. And I mean, it's just the weather is just perfect. It's just so great. I just love not having to, I just love being in shorts and barefoot all the time, um, and it's just a very cool culture where it was kind of untouched by civilization for till past 200 years. So it's just great. Got a great, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things going on. The stars are just beautiful. It's just so great to look at the stars every night. Um, and yeah, the ocean's
Is
fantastic.
what's two things? What is the weather actually like? I've never been to Hawaii, so I presume it's warm most of the time, but I don't know if it gets like really hot sometime of the year. And then is being barefoot a lot normal, or are you just talking about like when you go to the beach, you're barefoot, or can you like walk around town barefoot or something like that?
Yeah, no, I do, and some people do. It's not abnormal, right? So a lot of people do it. I mean, so we call them slippers if you're in like flip flops, they call them slippers, but they can
Right.
also just be barefoot. I don't
And
usually
that's
walk.
totally normal. Like it's clean enough, basically.
I
Because like
mean,
some people would,
downtown Honolulu is a little dirty, but
right?
your feet toughen up. It's
Okay.
in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, we used to call them summer feet. And just like in the summer, you walk on the rocks and stuff, and you kind of develop the thicker
Yeah.
skin on the bottom of your feet. Um, and then on the time zone front, I worked for a British nonprofit during COVID called Our World in Data, and I did software engineering.
Our world and data with all the charts and stuff.
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, those guys are great.
Yeah, it was an awesome team to work with. I've still to this day never met any of them in person, but it was an 11-hour time difference. And that was really difficult. I did that for a year and would not want to do that again. Um,
What
so
time are you working roughly?
well, oh God, that was a crazy year. I worked 80 hours a week so it was probably 4 in the morning until, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Um,
Wow.
That one. Yeah, yeah, it was a we went from 10 million visitors to 100 million that year. And so that was just a lot of work. Um, but it was annoying to be on such a time difference than the rest of the team. So I think it is a big deal. I think it's so much easier when you're in the same time zone.
And how about the weather?
But the weather is fantastic. It's the only state where it's never crossed 100 degrees. Um, so
Huh.
it's never too hot. And then it's never so cold that I need anything other than shorts and a t-shirt. So it'll get into the 60s or 50s in the winter. But um,
Is
yeah,
there a seasonal feel to it, or does it just feel like a beach town like all year? And it's just a little,
it's
cooler, but it's still like kind of beach weather all year after.
yeah. 2 days ago, it felt like Stephanie and I were walking around. It felt like a June day in Boston. Like it's warm all year round.
Got it.
The beach year round. The water is 82 degrees in the summer, 84 degrees in the summer, and then 77 in the winter. So it gets colder. There are seasons, but you barely notice them, which kind of gives it a weird feel that like time is not moving at all. And, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because so I'm in Florida now, but I'm from the Northeast originally myself, and Florida is the only place I've ever lived, with the exception of, I would say, San Francisco also has a weird, like, sort of no seasons vibe to it. Like, it does, the weather does change, but it just doesn't really feel very seasonal to me, or it didn't to me at
Yeah.
least.
Mhm.
And so I actually have learned that, like, I think it's just because I grew up with it primarily, but I really enjoy seasonality, and like um, I appreciate it independent of what the seasons themselves are. And so, like, even if like I would prefer a bit. less nice weather with seasonality versus nicer weather without seasonality. And so Florida it's kind of similar to, I'm sure you're familiar, but it's pretty similar to how you described Hawaii, I would say, except for that, this definitely isn't one of the states that's never had 100-degree weather. Like it can, get a lot hotter in the summer. But like it's not much, in my experience, not much different than like the Northeast. And so it's really pretty great. But I do miss the seasonality. Like as much as people want to be down here, like my friends from up north want to be down here this time of year. Um, I miss like fall and spring, even though like those seasons are like pretty fleeting and can tend to be pretty brief between summer and winter. It's just the rotation of it that does, I think, like gives like a very natural, um, I don't know, sense of time moving, like you said. Otherwise, it's just a little odd when it doesn't change. Like you said, the weather in Hawaii does change, and it does change here, and it changes in San Francisco. But like the seasonality is like the volatility, I guess you could say, is like very low, or whatever you want to call it. Like the delta between seasons is very low. Like it's the whole system is happening within a much tighter range of weather than a Northeast or a lot of other places on Earth. So it's interesting. But yeah, it's cool. I love how you're living out there in Hawaii, no phone, super cool um, baseline, I think, for living a good life. So I know we've gone a bit over time here. We were a little late to get started, but I'm trying to think if I had anything else on your last. I feel like I have one more thing. This is gonna be unfortunately like the second episode that I'm in a row that I'm like ending while forgetting the last thing that I wanted to say, but it happens sometimes. So anyway, it's been great talking with you, and I'll look forward
Yeah,
to
I hope you
going.
join me in this random quest to go phoneless.
I know it's great. Hopefully, maybe we can start a little movement. But I will say I don't think if I was going to get to the point where I'm actually going true no phone like you, I think it would take a few more failed iterations and maybe months or years of frustration to actually get to that point. For now, I still have the maybe ignorant optimism that I can find a balance, but in saying balance, it would be relatively extreme compared to most people in terms of how little I would be using my phone. Even for this, for example, this is actually a great example of an edge case for me personally, where it took me a couple of years really to figure out how I could record podcasts while walking, which is right now
Mhm,
I'm walking.
mhm.
Uh, and, uh, and I was so glad when I finally like broke that. And, the bottleneck was basically sufficiently quality audio.
Yes.
Um, and finally I figured it out and I was stoked about it. And now I have that working. And if I wasn't using my phone, I need the phone to trigger the Zoom to like, I would have a separate issue from the audio, which would be like sort of a software issue. Um, and so I'm not like super motivated to take away my ability to do the walking podcast right now. Like I love that. But I think there's going to be like, I think what I need to basically do is have a short list. Hopefully it's like only like 3 things or something of things that I really need my phone for. So like walking Zoom calls, 2-factor authentication maybe, and maybe there's like one other thing or something. Or maybe I bring it when in a certain situation or whatever, but like have this very short list of things, and otherwise it just lives in a closed drawer in my house. And like my hope would be that my overall screen time for the week, like excluding the Zoom calls that I do, would be like, less than half an hour, like every week, which is just, night and day from my default. And I think most people's default, which is going to be at least several hours a week, more likely maybe several hours a day. So excited about it. This is a great conversation to get me going on, get me motivated towards doing that. This is my only time I've, even like I sort of finished my 3 days technically last night and just had no desire to, like, I had no reason to go back on my phone and just no desire to do it. Unlike food, which I was stoked to break that fast. Like I was so hungry. Um, So, it actually puts into perspective like what we actually need versus
Right.
what we actually just want or think we want. And so I definitely we need food. But we don't
That's
need the
true.
phone. And so I didn't, this is my first time really picking it up for the Zoom call. It's just mostly been sitting in my pocket after getting situated. And I'll go back to my place, put it in the drawer, and hopefully be able to continue this for a while. But I'll keep you posted. I'll see you in the Warpcast feed, and maybe we'll catch up again soon.
That's great. And the walking podcast idea, by the way, love that. I think you should triple down on that. Tell
Oh
everyone
yeah,
that's such a good idea.
I
I
appreciate it. Yeah,
it
I love
reminds me
it.
of those old like British films, like documentaries where it's like a physicist walking with some guy and the recording in the woods. I just love that idea.
I
Cool.
think it would actually be, to your point, like a pretty compelling video as well. I'm
Mhm,
not really interested because I'm pretty pseudonymous with, my internet presence, but like,
mhm,
uh, I, I do like, you look at like, the best in class podcast, whether it's Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman or whatever, whoever you want. And they're just two guys like sitting in a studio. Like it's not at all intriguing from a visual perspective, but for
mhm,
some reason people like watching it anyway because they just like to like sort of see the person. Like I'm personally, I don't really watch like video of podcasts, but I know like a lot of people do.
mhm.
Um, and I think a walking version is more the visual component would be something more along the lines of like comedians in cars getting coffee. If you've ever seen
Yep,
that with
yep. Mhm.
Seinfeld, where like
Love it.
they're
Mhm,
cool conversations, but also you get to like experience a town or a coffee shop or the
mhm,
cars, and it's just like it's a little bit of nice stuff for the eyes, and it's dynamic um,
mhm.
with the conversation, which I think is super nice. So maybe if I decide to give up the pseudonymity at some point, I would do that. But for now, it's just walking. It's audio only, and yeah, I've been totally loving it. So um, yeah, and next time if we do one of these again, we'll see if we can get you walking as well. I don't really care about the guest. The guest audio can be subpar, and that's kind of fine. I think it's just when you're tuning in like episode over episode, and the host is constantly like pretty bad audio. It's just like kind of uh, not great. I think. But for guests, if you want to throw a pair of AirPods in or whatever, that could work. Although that's where your phone problem might bite you a little bit.
Well, no, I was inspired by your walking thing. I'm actually outside. I'm in the rain. I have an umbrella and I'm talking to you on my AirPods Max hooked up to my iPad, connected to the neon Wi-Fi in Cow
Wow.
Hollow. Yeah. So
Okay, so
I
not
have,
only do you have it going on, but you also made the switch somehow like seamlessly as we're talking. It's very impressive.
oh yeah. Yeah. No, I hope the audio quality has been okay because I haven't tested this out. So we'll see.
No, perfectly fine. All right, well, I'll finally let you go, but
All
appreciate the
right.
time again.
All right. Great
And
to
yeah, talk to you soon. Bye.
talk to you. Bye.